Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today, we'll be diving into Mike Stone. Pastor Mike Stone is suing Russell Moore. This is actually pretty big news if you're in the Southern Baptist Convention. Pastor Mike Stone, who was the losing candidate for president of the Southern Baptist Convention, he was the Conservative Baptist Network candidate, lost to Ed Litton, the leftist Kevin Ezell candidate. And the events leading up to that loss were a series of leaked letters, and I'm putting both of those in quotes because I don't believe that the letters were authentic, and I don't believe that they were leaked. I believe that he was the person who wrote those letters and intentionally leaked them, and that's what this lawsuit is alleging, that this was a coordinated attack. It's a defamation lawsuit that Russell Moore is receiving. And Mike Stone filed it, and Capstone Report broke the story. So hat tip to Capstone Report. So if we read the details of the story, let's just dive right in. And don't forget to like the video and also subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep this video kind of short because I've been going long lately. So let's keep this short. So this is being filed in Nashville. Key detail there. And the defendant's malicious campaign against plaintiff was motivated in part by defendant's desire to retaliate against plaintiff for his service on the aforementioned task force of the executive committee and to compromise its investigation into the ERLC by obfuscating pertinent facts. So the executive committee was investigating the ERLC for the loss of funds that the cooperative program was getting. So, a lot of people were divesting from the cooperative program, or at very least the ERLC, because Russell Moore is a flaming leftist. And that was being exposed in part by discernment bloggers. And therefore, people were responding with their wallets and not giving God's money to a enemy institution like the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. So with that said, Mike Stone's lawsuit is alleging that these leaked letters were in retaliation against Mike Stone's participation in this investigation. Stone claims that Russell Moore's targeted release of 2 false letters were intentional action to harm Stone's reputation prior to the election of the Southern Baptist president. Again, prima facie evidence that this is true. And again, in politics, because that's what this was, this was politics, happens. And, he tried to October surprise the Southern Baptist Convention, and guess what? There are consequences to that, apparently, and that's what Mike Stone is seeking. Mike Stone, the defendant, or the actions of the defendant in orchestrating and propagating an intentional, coordinated, and malicious campaign to defame plaintiff and cast plaintiff in a false light before the Southern Baptist community and the public at large have been designed to intentionally inflict mental anguish and severe emotional distress upon plaintiff, as well as tarnish plaintiff's reputation within the religious community and jeopardize plaintiff's future earning capacity through the publication of false and highly offensive material within the Southern Baptist Convention entities affiliated with the SBC, the news media, and elsewhere. So again, he's also, Russell Moore, and this is pretty much part of the lawsuit, as well as Capstone Report talks about, is basically well connected with media. He's allowed to write for very communist news outlets. He's allowed to write for those because, if you're an actual Christian, good luck getting published in the New York Times. Good luck getting published in the Washington Post or Houston Chronicle or USA Today. That's just not how those publications work anymore. Stone's lawyer claimed in the lawsuit beginning on or about February 24th, 2020, within 1 week of the creation of the aforementioned task force, that was the task force to investigate the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, defendant began a malicious, intentional, and egregious campaign to harm plaintiff, including but not limited to defaming him within the 2 texts of the letters strategically concealed from general distribution within the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission and the SBC, but then subsequently seren, surreptitiously released or leaked to the news media, which defendant knew due to controversial nature of the letters. Major media outlets would result in widespread publication. Said in the letters, in fact, subsequently published in Religious News Service, Baptist Press, and several other media outlets. I'm sorry, I'm not great with words these days. As a result of the allegedly false story spread by Russell Moore, Stone experienced attacks on social media. So part of the lawsuit goes into the fact that Stone received supposedly death threats or whatever. Again, I'm always a Pixar didn't happen when it comes to death threats or any sort of online things. Since defendant wrote these harmful statements in and disseminated or caused them to be disseminated for public consumption, plaintiff would show that he has received numerous resentful personal messages through social media, which has upset plaintiff greatly and caused him emotional distress. Plaintiff would show that such messages are the natural and probable consequence of the defendant's malicious campaign designed to defame plaintiff and falsely portray plaintiff as being involved in a clandestine effort to cover up allegations of sexual abuse occurring within the SBC's affiliate organizations. This lawsuit asks for damages and punitive damages. So there's two types of things. You can ask for like restitution and stuff like that, and you can get punitive damage on top of that. This lawsuit's going after both. Russell Moore, his previous, and Capson report notes this at the end, his previous lawsuits include him filing a false amicus brief with the Will McRaney case, and that was involving Kevin Ezell trying to get Will McRaney fired from the Baptist Convention of Maryland and Delaware, which is, hey, my neck of the woods. So that's... And he also suggests that Ronnie Floyd should do the same. And I would disagree. I would take issue with that. And again, I would also probably disagree with Capson Report's assessment that Ronnie Floyd is a hero, because I don't see it. The guy's at best incompetent. That's my opinion on that. At best, he's incompetent. At worst, he's pretty much what helped fuel the downfall of the SBC. So let's talk about the merits of this. I think this is a pretty credible lawsuit. If they have standing, then they can open up a discovery process, and they can bring in witnesses that can say that, hey, these letters were never really distributed internally, therefore they're kind of fake, and they were leaked purposefully. I think that's a pretty good pathway to go down. If these letters never were published at the time, then there's a lot of credibility with this lawsuit. Otherwise, it does seem pretty intuitive that these letters were not actually written for internal use. If you read the letters, they're actually written for a general audience. So that should raise a lot of red flags. And of course, I remember reading the letters on a video that I did back in May or June, late May, early June, leading up to the SBC 21. And I do believe that these letters played a big role, and I think they can prove that there were substantive damages. Now, let's talk about the ethical, biblical issues here. Is this a violation of 1 Corinthians 6? That depends on whether you call Russell Moore a brother or not. I believe that Russell Moore is a snake. He is a wolf. He is a weasel. He is all those things. And I don't really consider him within the church. I think he's apostatized himself. I think he's just someone that's far beyond the pale. So I don't think that this is the same. I've talked about a lot of lawsuits lately. In the last 3 months, more lawsuits within the church in the last 3 months that I've talked about than in the last 2 years of doing this. We had the David Platt being sued by his own church, and I believe that was a gray area because, first of all, you're getting a church to enforce its own bylaws, so that's a little funky. But second of all, reason against it is if you have to sue your church to get them to abide by their own rules, that church is already beyond saving, and I don't think a lawsuit would have been an effective use of your own resources. That's just my opinion, so I don't think it's practical, and probably it isn't biblical either. So I don't really think that they're gonna do much there. Another lawsuit was the lawsuit brought by Hannah Kate Williams against the Executive Committee of the Southern Baptist Convention, which is also against Mike Stone and Rod Martin. And I believe that was a complete 1 Corinthians 6 violation because, again, you're trying to handle business within a denomination. You don't need to go to the pagan courts to do that. But this situation is a little different because Russell Moore is not actually Southern Baptist anymore. He's left Baptist theology. I believe he works at a Presbyterian church, if I recall, which, Paedo Baptist, and he claimed in one of his letters that he's so Southern Baptist, and it's just ironic, but he's a liar, so this is to be expected. Furthermore, I think Russell Moore is an obvious false teacher. He's someone that's obviously an enemy within the church. He has been instrumental in being a frontline name in peddling social justice within the church, peddling other ideologies within the church like feminism and stuff like that. It's pretty clear that Russell Moore has, borne some very bad fruit, some very wicked fruit, and that's coming home to roost as he was exposed and he had to leave. And it's a shame that he wasn't fired because he's probably getting a higher paycheck over at Christianity Today, which is a pretty pagan news publication as well. So I think because Russell Moore should not be considered a brother, I don't think this is completely a violation of 1 Corinthians 6. What Russell Moore did was probably illegal and, worthy of bringing civil action against. And I think this lawsuit has a real case at discovering the truth of what is going on within the Southern Baptist Convention and the corruption thereof. Now, it's interesting since the Southern Baptist Convention is without legal counsel, how that will play out into this lawsuit, or whether that's even the impetus for this lawsuit in the first place. The fact that Mike Stone, is on the SBC Executive Committee, or at least I think he is, and that Executive Committee doesn't have legal counsel, but Mike Stone obviously has his own legal counsel. So, with that said, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Because they have no legal counsel, they can be subpoenaed or show witnesses, be brought in as witnesses, and they'd have to fund their own lawyers to have adequate counsel against in those situations, whether they're filing deposition or some sort of affidavit or whatever. So good luck to Mike Stone. Again, I don't necessarily think that's the letter. I understand how you can come to the conclusion that the letter is what cost you, but to be honest, at the end of the day, I don't think he ran a good campaign for president of the Southern Baptist Convention. He didn't run a good campaign. You didn't call out Ed Litton. You didn't call out Al Mohler. You pretended like everyone in the race was a good person, and that just wasn't true. That wasn't true. So I'm glad you're fighting harder now, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, Mike Stone is fighting harder for his own reputation than he did for the Southern Baptist Convention. My opinion. Comment below what you think about what I think, and that's all I got to say about that for now. Obviously, we'll see where this lawsuit heads, and we'll keep track of this. So with that said, that's all I got to say about that. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. Like the video and also subscribe to the channel. And also check out evangelicaldarkweb.org if you want to support Christian commentary, news breaking when I do that, and other analyses. I'm bad with pronunciation in this video. Head on over to evangelicaldarkweb.org/join, and you can support us there as well and become a subscriber. Have a blessed day, and I will catch you on the next one.